Look at what we have here. Let's see what we have. Oh gosh, this is a heavy box. This is my first take doing an unboxing review, but we're gonna take a look at this. Let's see what she looks like. Can go off like a lid. Oh, we have some manual. Oh, here's the manual. I'll have to look through that. This shows how to wire up the electrocoupler. I don't think I'll be doing that till later. Then we have a warranty, or whatever this is. And then this is really cool. This is like the manual of what it looks like inside. This is basically part of your manual. So which one is the engine, which one is the tender? I'm curious. Let's see which one this is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the boxes on here first and move this big box out of the way. So this is the engine, because this one's more heavier. Let's see, let's open up this box. I think this is the tender. We're going to pull this one out first. Alright. And it's upside down. Right, okay. Let's see what it looks like. Wow. Okay, it's tender. Let's see what else we have here. Here's the electrocoupler that we can install ourselves later. Here's a scale pilot truck. I think I'll install this later. We also have some new bottle of smoke fluid. Let's get the tender out first. That's kind of a good place to grab it. Oh god, this tender is very heavy. All this stuff. Wow. This is actually, look at, here's the bottom. Sorry if you can't see. There's the bottom. Really cool. I think I'll have to styrofoam and all as such. Let's put the tender down. Now let's get the engine. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it. Now, I did want this a long time ago. I'll move this stuff out of the way first. This is a really heavy tender for some reason. I will wait for you later and see how much this thing weighs. Okay. It's pretty difficult, so it's not the best unboxing video, but you know. Alright. That's what the engine looks like. There she is. This thing is huge. There's the underside. The thing is just absolutely massive. Look how big this thing is. So yeah, hey guys, this is Brendan's Trains here. Today we'll be filming a review on this new engine I just got today. This is the Lionel 1996 rendition of the Commodore Vanderbilt. Before I talk about the history of this, I'm just going to state the obvious that some people is going to say. This engine is the wrong color to be appropriately accurate. That I agree with. I don't know how they got the paint wrong. They did make another Commodore Vanderbilt, I believe in 1998, that has the correct color. The engine should be a dark gray, almost a black. This engine is a very silvery color. Now, Lionel also made a weathered version of this, but that one's really rare. So, that's why the engine looks this way as it is. But now, let's go into some history about this engine. The New York Central, in 1927, made a new type of steam engine with the 464 wheel arrangement. The railroad decided to name the engine after a river called the Hudson River. The prototype locomotive, number 5200, was unlike any other engine seen before. The railroad was very satisfied with the engine, so ever since then, the New York Central Railroad kept rolling them out of the factory until 1938, when the last one was completed. A grand total of surprisingly 275 units were built in the 11 years of production. They pulled the most famous passenger trains like the 20th Century Limited and the Empire State Express. The Hudsons had the perfect balance of speed and power. They were able to go over 100 miles an hour easily. Now, onto our example, number 5344. 5344 was built in 1931 and was the last member of the J1E type Hudsons. The engine looked normal up until 1934, when she came out of the shops looking different than what she was before. The engine was streamlined and was a deep gray, almost a black color, and called the Commodore Vanderbilt. The Commodore Vanderbilt was the first ever streamlined steam locomotive. The engine got a few upgrades in its career, such as new wheels, a higher boiler pressure, and smaller cylinders. Then, 5 years later, in 1939, she was re-streamlined to look more like the J3A type Empire State Express Hudsons and the Dreyfuss Hudsons. The engine stayed like this up until 1945, when she was de-streamlined. 5344 herself was finally withdrawn on February 14, 1957, and scrapped on that same year. And unfortunately, none of the Hudsons were left, and all of them were gone by 1958. Now that I've talked the history about this engine, let's go ahead and talk about this model right here. This Lionel model of the Commodore Vanderbilt came out in 1996. It has old TMCC that was new around that time. It has a whistle, bell, chugging, a puffing smoke unit, a Pullman motor, and you also have to put a 9-volt battery in to get all the functions to work. Now, there's a couple ways to operate this. You can either run it with the Lionel Cab 1L remote, or the Legacy or TMCC, as that will give you access to all of the locomotive's advanced features. However, you can also run it with the classic transformer and some track. I just talked about the features on it. Now let's go ahead and look a close look at the details. You have some nice cow country detailing. Now, this is a streamlined engine, so this is all shrouded over. We do, however, have a New York Central number or nameplate right here. We also have a separately applied metal grab iron going around the front, and up top we have an operating headlight. Now, if you look up, it's recessed into the boiler, which I really do like on this thing. Now, if you look more towards the side, as you can tell, there's not as much detail. There's a separately applied metal handrail that goes all the way the length of the boiler. We do have some nice pilot trucks down here, and we have the valve here. Now, this looks great when the model is in motion. Now, the driving rods I really like. They actually look better than my 700E Hudson I have. And the driving wheels look really nice. They're skull and disc drivers. I think they look better than some of the other wheels I've seen. Here's a look at the firebox here. As you can see, there is no firebox on this thing. Since there is no firebox, this whole thing is streamlined, so that's why I can't see any detail. There is no crew figures inside, except there is a firebox glow in there, which I'll show you that a little bit later. Now let's take a look at the top of the engine. As you can see, I do not know what this piece is, so if anyone knows, please let me know. Then I have the nice smokestack detailing. Now, there is some detail around the smokestack. I don't know what that is. But there is a fan-driven smoke unit, and as always, to load smoke fluid into the smoke unit, you simply pour the smoke fluid directly down the stack. Now, behind that, we have a nice bell here, and I like that's not molded in. You can actually swing it back and forth. Then right here, we have some covered-up domes right here, I think, sand domes, from what I can tell. And right here, I have a steam dome. Right here, I have some nice pop-off valves. Now, these are molded in. This is made in 1996, so it's not going to have as much detailing as some of the newer stuff, but they did do a lot of detail back then in 1996. Then right here we have a whistle, and as you can tell, it's also molded in, which I'm a little bit disappointed by. Here's a close look on the cab. We have an additional nice rivet detailing all around. Now, these vents look nice, but sadly they do not open up for some reason. They're just cast in. Here we have a closer look at the inside of the cab. As you can see, there's not that much detailing. There is the gauges and all such, but they're not painted. Here we have a wire that goes from the engine to the tender. Now, back in 1996, this is what they had. Now, up here we have a switch. Now, this is the program run switch right here. And there is a firebox glow right here, and then it does light up when the engine is moving. Now let's take a look at the tender of this model. Right here we have the other side of the cord so the engine and tender can communicate with each other. Then we have the receiving drawbar right here so the engine and tender could connect to each other. We do have some nice step detailing going up to the walkway of the tender, and there are some separately applied grab irons on each side. There's 4 right here. Now there is some in the back of the tender, I'll show you that later, but on the front there are some nice door detailing, and there's even some, if I can zoom in, some little coal spitting out. I think that's a really nice touch. On the sides of the engine we have a nice New York Central logo. You can barely see it, read it. But then on the trucks we have some nice detailing on the wheels. They are painted silver on the outside, which is a really nice touch. Here's a look on the top of the tender. Now as you can see there's no coal because the tender actually did have coal, but this was covering over it. Now obviously there's no coal on this, but you can remove this piece right here and it gives you access to the 9-volt battery, the volume control, and the signal sounds and rail sound switch. Now I'm going to put this back on. Now it's held in place with no magnets, but there is slots right here. There's 2 holes, and on the bottom there is 2 pegs, and then you can put it back on top, and it will stay together like that. Towards the back of the tender, as you can see, I have a nice ladder right here, and then we have the water hatch, but it's molded and it does not open. Finally, here's a look at the back of the tender. As we can see, we have some nice handrail detailing right here. We have a backup light, which does work. Then we also have a simply applied metal grab iron up top. We have this coupler cup bar, which does move up and down. And here we have the coupler. Now, I did forget to mention, this thing does come with a spare electrocoupler you can wire to it. I'm not going to be doing that for a while, because I just like it the way as it is. Alright, the last thing we're going to do before we start this baby up is to mention my favorite feature on this engine. Now, that feature is an easy pick. It's the whistle. It sounds amazing. In fact, it's probably the best whistle I've ever heard. Now, I don't know if the whistle is the real whistle for the Commodore Vanderbilt, but frankly, I don't care because I just love running this engine just to hear that whistle. So yeah, my favorite feature on this engine is the whistle. Alright, let's go ahead and start this engine up. So that's the idle sound from this thing. First up, here is the whistle. I love the whistle on this thing. Now, when you go forward, when you go faster, the whistle actually gets more higher pitch, which is really cool. Here's the bell. That's the bell. Now, anyways, we're going to hook her up to a train, and then we're going to roll her out. Alright, let's go ahead and roll her out. Now, the cars I have behind her is 5 New York Central Railroad passenger cars. I did try to haul all 9 behind this thing earlier. It had some major slowdown. So I just want to run 5 of it, so it runs perfectly fine. So anyways, let's go ahead and roll her out.